shines on the stars. Creators light the darkness, innovators pave the way. Stories that we follow. Create greater than consume. Hearts wide open, reaching for the moon. Create greater than consume. Dreams in motion, brighter than the noon.
Hi, welcome to Create and Consume, the podcast where we explore
Hello.
journeys of inspiring builders and creators. Today we have a very special guest with us. She is Deeksha Sharma. She is a recent graduate from Delhi University and is a very passionate content creator. Diksha has worked into HR, tech, marketing. She has also interned at IIT Kharagpur and is currently running a growing blog on Medium. Let's look into her inspiring journey. So yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Omkar. Really glad to be here today.
Sure. Can you briefly introduce about yourself?
Sure thing. So, actually, you covered a lot of it. So, yeah, that was my professional background primarily. I graduated in human resources, but then I thought, okay, this is not the place for me to work, and eventually ended up in marketing through an internship. And I really liked the workplace, and until now, still working with the same team. It has been 2 years now. So yeah, I've worked there for around 2 years. Meanwhile, I used to love reading since I guess 4 5 years. I've been reading pretty consistently. Before that, it was a little haphazard. And somewhere in this, I thought, okay, I should write, and that's how the blog started. That's how it all sort of get started. So it has been close to 2 years since that happened, and I've been writing pretty much consistently and currently inconsistently, to be very honest, because well, life catches up and all that happens. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As of now, I'm in mid phase, and over the 6 weeks, my primary goal was to get back on track. I was not looking at something huge. I just wanted to like push out something, do something, do a very bare minimum thing, get activity going. That was it. So yeah, that's the idea. But by posting on Twitter, simply I met a lot of great creators. I saw even my mutuals doing great things. Like one of them, Chelsea Mehta, is posting videos every day. That is a huge step. Like I can hardly even think of doing that. And like you are creating this podcast, so there's a lot happening, and I'm really happy to be here among these people. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So I heard a couple of interesting stuff, and I'll get down with the reading part. So, what are the major themes that you like to read? Because I also like reading a lot.
So, for me, primarily it has been a journey in itself as well. So, I started with reading fiction. I read a lot of fiction back in school or even in my early college days. I was entirely constructed to fiction. But then again, something interesting happened. We were the COVID batch. We were sitting at home. We had a lot of time and internet, obviously. So, someone from my college started a reading club, and it was two people who eventually became good friends. And I just joined them thinking, okay, better than doing nothing, better than sitting idle. And that's where I discovered nonfiction. That's where I discovered reading about economics. That's where I discovered how politics, history, all of that is something that you can reach. If there's something you want to learn about, you just need to find a book and open it. There's nothing more stopping you beyond your self-belief. So yeah, that's how it happens. So now coming to the present, I read a mix of everything. So in fiction, I like classics a lot. So you'll find me often reading an Austen or something around that. I also like reading about the current socio-political environment, the economic environment. Like recently, I read Raghuram Rajan's book, Breaking the Mold. So yeah, that's the sort of mix-up that I'm going with. Around last year, I actually developed an interest in psychology as well because I read bits of it during my undergrad education because human resources does have certain connections. And again, discovered some bits of it in marketing because that's how the entire thing works. And then I started reading about that too. So one of my favorite books right now, that would be Thinking by Daniel Kahneman, actually comes from that genre. So it's a very varied mix as of now.
Yeah, that is
What
a
I
very
don't like
wide
reading
spectrum.
is self-help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What I don't
that
like
is
reading is self-help.
understood. So that is a very wide spectrum, and it shows how curious a person you are, and kudos to that. Keep that up, because if you maintain this streak, then you get to know that there are so much things that we don't know about, and that humbles us, and that always keeps us to learn more.
Obviously. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
There's
So
so much that you just discover.
yeah, continue.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, that there's so much you could discover even while reading fiction. Like a lot of people say, why are you reading fiction? Like, what are you even getting out of it? This is just another lame story. But no, you understand that there's a certain emotion that someone felt before you. Something happened that is happening with you when it happened 100 years ago to you. And there are ways to express things. There are ways to analyze a particular social cultural context and all of that, which you do learn no matter what you are doing, no matter what you're doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
So my next question is, a lot of readers always silently read, but how do you graduate from reading to becoming a writer, or like picking up the habit of writing consistently?
Okay, so the simple thing is that once you are reading, you are bound to have certain thoughts about it. You do have certain opinions, like, okay, this was very bad, this was very good, or whatever. And you want to express those thoughts. That's pretty much the story with me because I am someone who's mm, very much about putting things out. So I used to be a debater back in college. I'm the typical person you'll find arguing about everything under the sun. So that was my thing. And I thought, okay, if I'm reading books and if I have something to say, I will say it. And then actually, I was hesitant. I did not go about with it as soon as I got the idea. I took years to get to it actually. I had multiple friends persuading me, and eventually one almost threatened me, like, just write this out, okay? That is how it actually went ahead. So the simple thing was that, okay, there's an idea, and someone gave me this belief that it is worth putting out, and it went out.
Nice, that is great. Another
Yeah.
question that I have right now, looking at your background and looking at your experiences, you mentioned that you grew up in Delhi, or you graduated from Delhi University. So, how has growing up in Delhi and being in that vicinity influenced your life and your choices?
Oh, I think actually that's a pretty big factor in my personal life. So I grew up with a couple of parents who still have books from their old college days stored in this house. So that was the context I was growing up in. I always had books which were way above my level, just floating around and things were happening. And I was always able to access those things which you might not have typically. And that was a certain bit of Delhi and a certain bit of privilege as well, because not everyone has that. Not everyone even has parents who will let you just to read random stuff for the sake of it. So that was one. Another thing was that yes, I did go to Delhi University, and Delhi University has amazing libraries. So you can always go ahead and check out Dinker's book in a hard copy instead of burning your eyes on it. So yeah, that was another aspect. Then I found my friends, as I mentioned, these two people who were running that club. These again happened because it was Delhi University. It was this culture which happened and which allowed me to engage into an area which I thought, okay, this is not a thing for me. But that presence of those people enabled me in a way. So yeah, there's a lot of positive impact that has come in due to it, but I think there's a certain negative bit as well. Like if you see my reading list today, I don't remember the last time I read a Hindi book, although this is my native tongue. So yeah, that is something that Delhi does to you. You also need to stay in touch with who you are and not just get lost in the city.
Yeah. Along with reading, you also pursued different interests like debating. So, how did you actually pursue those opportunities as well?
So the thing with debating is that I love debating naturally. I don't need a stage. I don't need a mic. I'll argue with anyone wherever I get the chance. And in school, actually, I did not get a lot of chances. My schools were pretty small and like limited affairs. So there was not a lot happening in terms of debating or even speeches and all that. Even I would say like I would not have been able to speak for 7 minutes back in school because then in college I went in and we had speeches for 7, 10 minutes and it was eye-opening when we first watched our seniors doing it. Like, okay, this guy has so much English. 7 minutes. That's a huge time. So yeah, it was definitely a huge change. But what happened is again a similar story. I found people who enabled me. So I auditioned for my college's debating society, which was something I was not even expected to get selected in because I thought, okay, there are way smarter people here, there are better people here. Why would I get in? And I don't even have any experience or whatever. Yet I did get in, and throughout first year I made friends there, and we went to a lot of debates. It was again online. COVID era was there, so we were debating till like 1 a.m., 3 a.m., and that also allowed us to be unhinged in a way because we could debate till whatever time we wanted. Then we could sit and discuss about it for 2 more hours. So again, it was the environment that enabled, although till class 12th I did not have it, but once I was in college, I did get that set up. I went on to join that society and made great friends there, and we did great things. So that society itself became something very close to my heart. Actually, it was the closest thing to my heart in back in college. And even 2 days back, I was talking to my junior from the society only. I can still spend like hours talking about it because of that sort of close relationship and everything. Again, debating happened. And yes, I was not a great debater, to be very frank. And we are not the best in the circuit. DU circuit is huge. DU itself has 70 colleges. And then Delhi has other universities as well. So debating here is a pretty competitive environment. And we were not doing this, but we were enjoying, we were learning. And that was it. That was enough. That's how it went.
Yeah, that is great. And I think comparison is thief of joy. So you shouldn't actually compare yourself with others. You should always strive to be better than what you were the day before. So
So,
how did you actually overcome this habit of subconsciously comparing with others, and how did you actually break from this habit?
okay, interesting question. How did I actually break from it? Because at some level, I proved that I'm not on the same path as them. So the person who was even sitting with me, even in say DU, came from a fancy school, say DPS, Ryan, whatever fancy name you have. And at some point, I was thinking, okay, we are not on the same path. I come from a very different place. I should remember that I come from this place, and this is the next step for me. What is step two for me might be step 100 for them, or it could be the reverse. So let's just think about ourselves and where we are and where we are heading. And if it's going forward, that's enough. I guess others are going on their own journeys. So you can't really match up everyone, and that would be waste of effort, frankly, because they have their own things to care about. They have their own circumstances. And as I said, even in reading, I had a certain advantage because I had that sort of parents. I had that sort of environment which others don't have. So again, someone else has something which I don't have. So let's just accept certain realities about ourselves and move on. That was it.
Yeah. So being in a creative field is always a very courageous and brave decision that anyone can take. A lot of people get stuck and into the self-doubt and self-hesitation, and they don't think that they can do it. But once they are exposed to their limits, they get normal and they understand what they are capable of. So how do you
Exactly.
test your limits, or how do you challenge
Okay,
yourself?
interesting. So I personally think that life challenges me more than I challenge myself. I am just kind of always in a very chaotic environment and always doing multiple things. That's one thing about me. I will always be in multiple areas. I will rush from one to another because I can't let myself rest. So that is the way in which I've been constantly testing my limits, and it just got worse around the second year of college. Since then, I was like, I want to do everything. So in a way that tested my limits, and honestly I hit my limits. I was burnt out in a way. I did find my limits. I did find out that there are certain things I should not do. But as a creative person, then there are certain boundaries which you can establish instead of hitting limits. You can think that okay, this is the healthy amount of stuff that I should be doing. Once you have understood that there is an unhealthy limit that you should not be crossing. So that was the primary idea. And being in a creative field, yes, it is exhausting. And again, I work in marketing. I write a lot as a professional. And beyond that, writing for a personal reason then becomes like an extra headache. Like, yeah, I'm writing in office for 8 hours. I'm writing back home. What am I doing? then it's about understanding the different purpose of both the things and seeing how one is impacting, say, at a business level, and how the other is actually more of a personal impact, leave alone what it generates externally. So, yeah, that was
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Interesting. It reminds me of a thought that love what you do and work seems like play.
True, that's absolutely true, actually. So that was one reason why I personally did not pursue the subject in which I was doing that degree. Because yes, it's very obvious. Like you did an undergrad in HR, why don't you do an MBA and take a typical HR job and do all of that? Like my due respect to HR people, but I felt like that was not the place for me. So I would rather do something that I love and rather do something that sort of gives me peace. Yeah, lets me be calm.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. I am more interested in hearing your prioritization framework because there is a lot of stuff that you do. So how do you decide that this project or this thing should be focused more on, and it is high on my to-do list, or this is my absolute priorities and other things can be deprioritized. So how do you actually balance between a lot of diverse stuff that you are currently working on?
It personally depends on how close to my heart it is in a way. I know it is a very qualitative metric. I can't really give a reasonable amount of figures with this, like, okay, this is 5 points closer or whatever. That can't happen. But it's simply about what feels good, what feels right. Like, I'm doing build space right now. Before this, I was doing a cohort of no code because I felt like, okay, this is an interesting area. But again, I was also doing one more cohort of product development, which I left midway because I felt like, okay, this is not creating enough impact for me. And this is not something which I am finding relatable or valuable. So why am I wasting my time on this? Or why am I putting in efforts into something that is not for me? So for me personally, it's about what feels right, what feels like a part of me. Writing feels like a part of me. Okay, obviously I want to give time to it, but again, certain things come up like family requirements, personal commitments are there. So with that, certain priorities actually get managed by the world and not you. So that's one realization that I had over the last few months, that not all your priorities will be set by you. Certain ones have to be decided by the world around you. And beyond that, whatever gaps you have left, think of what can fill you the most. Think of what's the most fulfilling activity for you and just do it. That is something I felt over sketching as well, because like as a kid I used to sketch a lot, but as I grew up it just stopped because I thought, okay, I'm not doing good enough and I have better things to do. Like, why am I sketching a flower in 2 hours? Because then I can read these many pages or get this or that done. And I'm not okay. I'll let it be. No one's coming and judging me. And even if they are, I'm not doing it for their judgment. I'm just doing it because I want to. So prioritization kind of always goes the same way for me. Then obviously when it comes to the day-to-day basis, then it's about, okay, which deadline do I need to hit first? So it is mostly the work related things that take a priority then, and then in the after hours, like right now or in the early morning hours, the other things happen and life goes on that way.
Okay. So what I understand is you try to optimize for fun or optimize for when it is work stuff, you try to optimize which deadline it is that I should be focusing on and tackle accordingly.
Right. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, that is a great framework to follow. So like a lot of things that I am thinking right now is when you are interested into different projects or different interest, do you try to achieve multiple multiple interest using a same goal, or do you make your goals in such a way that you can achieve multiple interest when you pursue a single goal? Like you mentioned that you were good into you tried the low code no code thing, so were you trying to do that as a part of your vision of building web apps or getting better at web apps, or do you combine things so that you can be more productive or more efficient, or how do you select stuff?
Actually, I would say it's more of the latter that you mentioned. I don't particularly try to hit goals with the things I am doing. It's also another habit that I let go basically. I had this habit, okay, I will read these many books, I'll read about this or that, and now I just don't. I thought, okay, why am I rushing myself? I am here for like 70, 80 years more. I can read a decent amount of stuff. I'll read it when it comes. So again, I stopped trying to mix up things and achieve the maximum number of goals. That's not it. It's more of what fits. No code happened because it felt interesting and okay, I could build my portfolio after it. That was another added advantage that I discovered after doing it. That is something I did not optimize for. And that is how it goes with most of the things. If I'm reading something, I'm reading it just because I want to read it. If I can write something about it later on, that's an added advantage I got. If it led to some interesting thought, okay, that's great. But it's not something I'm optimizing for. And even like being active on social media, I'm just posting most of the time. I'm not optimizing for whatever, like reaching out to more people or networking, as they say, in like on LinkedIn lingo. That's not it. I'm just doing things, and if there is an added advantage, I'd be happy to have it. I'd be happy to leverage it if it fits with my vision. But yeah, I'm not going to go ahead and try for multiple things or being on some sort of 75 hard challenge. No, not happening.
Yeah. So adding on to that, I read your intro on Sage that one of your goal is to get read 1,000 books. How close are you to that goal, and how soon do you plan to complete it?
Okay, that is a long one, and that is something that has been on my bucket list since I was like very small. I was like, okay, this is a good goal to have on your bucket list because people typically have not see, I want to travel every country or whatever. No, I'm a very lazy person. I don't want to travel, but I want to read. So I am above one fifth of it. Uh, I have read somewhere around 50 to 60, something around that books. I read, that's it. That's the right number. But the thing is that I am a very smart person who deleted Goodreads last year and did not keep track of what she has read. So
Yeah. So
that's
a
why
better
you
better
find a
question
total
to
thread.
okay. So a better question to ask would be how much books do you currently have in your do not read pile or yet not read pile?
Okay, another very good question. If I could go out, I can actually show you a whole diary which has pages filled. There's another limitless list of this because if you read one book, you find five more references, and there are five more things that you then have to read. You can't let it be. So that is also another huge pile. But I've lately tried to organize my reading better. You find a Twitter thread on my profile now, so at least I have documented what I read this year. I will try to somehow wreck my memory someday and get back what I have read and list all that somewhere. Hopefully someday. Not a project on top of my mind right now, and there is it's complicated. I do want to hit 1,000, but I can't hit 1,000 because I don't know what I have hit so far.
Okay. So
But I
what is
do have
some
like 800 or so.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So what is some interesting fact that you can say right now that will inspire someone to pick reading as a hobby?
If you have read long enough, you can find the meaning of any word you encounter.
Oh, so you can predict like what is based on usage. Okay.
Based on usage and essentially languages are patterns, right? So there are certain similarities, and if you break down a word enough, you will go back to its raw, most
Yeah.
simplest
The
uh,
origin.
version.
Mhm.
Yeah. And if you do it long enough, if you do it over the years, you are a walking, talking dictionary without needing to read. And it's a
Yeah.
surprising ability that people find weird. Like, okay, when did you know that? I don't know that. I just made it up.
Yeah. So how did you actually fixate on the number 1,000? Because 1,000 is the book that qualifies something as a library.
It was a random childish dream, to be very honest. At that
Okay.
point, I had started reading. I was at a personal low point. It was back in school. I thought, okay, I am just spending my time reading. I should better invest in this only as a lifelong thing rather than thinking of other, fancier stuff or all, because I really found peace in a very bad time in my life in reading. So I thought, okay, 1,000 is a big number, but 1,000 is also something that I can achieve. I will do it some years later. It will happen. It won't be an impossible lifelong wish. And once I do it, I can always keep going on, and it would be a nice point to flex about. Like, okay, see, I've read 1,000 books.
Yes.
So it would be a
Yes.
childish thing.
Yeah. When you complete that from your bucket list, you can call yourself as a human library.
Hopefully, let's see. I guess going at my present rate, it would still need 15, 20 years. So let's see. We can catch up with another podcast by then and see how it goes.
Yeah, sure. So with that, let's continue with the next section. Welcome back. In the last section, we covered about Diksha's journey. We looked at her early life, her education, her different interests, and how she likes to read, write, as well as debate. In this section, we will continue our discussion and look at what are the projects that she is building for BuildSpace, and then get into the nitty-gritties and any advice that she has for other aspiring creators and builders of BuildSpace. Welcome back, Diksha.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So firstly, I would like to know about your BuildSpace project and what is the current status that you are at.
So, my Wednesdays project is my blog. I have it on Medium, and it's primarily about reading and pop culture. But lately, I also started putting out things about marketing as well, because I feel like, okay, that's also a part of me. And let's not limit it to one particular genre. This blog is more about me. I am the genre rather than reading or any particular area as such. So yeah, that's the blog mainly. It has some pieces about books or not exactly book reviews. So when I started it, my thought was, okay, I won't be another person doing book reviews here. I might do them once in a while if I found a book worth it, but no, this is not going to be it, because I wanted to be a little different, and I just did not want to write something for the sake of writing it, because otherwise you can review every book, right? I don't want to do that. So my idea was that if I find some book thought-provoking, if I see some aspect in a book which I would not have predicted earlier, or if I see scope of some conversation that is not already happening around a particular book or any particular thing, then I'll put that out. And that is how it has been so far, sort of. I started with Arundhati Roy's book, and then I went on to review Evelyn Hugo and all of that. Right now, it has a couple of marketing related things in the latest things. I'm working on two more pieces. First would be not exactly a review, but a sort of commentary on Manish Gaikwad's book. That was The Last Courtesan. He wrote his mother's memoir. And yeah, that would be one. Second is that we are in the month of July, and 6 months have passed. So I'm just looking back at the year and recollecting what are the best books that I read so far. So yeah, these are the two pieces that I'm working on, and I'm going to push them out hopefully very soon. So yeah, that is pretty much the status. It doesn't have a lot of followers right now, to be very honest. Some of the pieces do get some audience from Medium inherently, and that's kind of it. That's the status. The plan with Build Space is to be get back on it, to become active on it, to leave the sort of rut that I got into once I started working and all of those things happened. So yeah, that's the basic idea with my build space project. It's nothing fancy. It's a very small loop छोटू सा project.
Yeah, it is very interesting. And I think being on this podcast will optimize for your low followers. So don't get disheartened. Everyone starts with zero. And if you keep pushing enough with every consistent effort, ultimately you will increase your surface area for luck to find you. So yeah. And I am pretty heavily invested in the content that you make because I like to learn and I value different perspectives. So keep it up.
That's really great of you to say that actually.
Yeah.
I hope
So,
so. I hope it turns into something valuable for people.
okay. You are a marketing professional. So, drawing from that experience, do you have a secret mantra for churning out viral content?
No, I don't. And if a marketing person says that, they do, they're lying to you.
Oh, okay. But
There's nothing
what do
like,
you think? What do you think would be like key or ingredient for making, or have you identified anything, any particular themes or any particular framework that can lead to viral content consistently?
I guess it would be about keeping in touch with what people are talking about, having a pulse of your audience. That would be the most important aspect, in my opinion, especially when you are working on some area which doesn't have consistent audience coming to it. For instance, like if you're talking of Arundhati Roy and if she gives a statement and the government acts against her, like it happened a month back, then there would be a higher interest in her as compared to on an average day where she is writing something randomly and no one is really putting her on the front of the newspaper. So when you have a sort of inconsistent pattern, then you need to be in touch with that pattern. If you know that, okay, Arundhati Roy is going to write a new book, talk about Arundhati Roy. Just stay in touch with your people and sort of have an idea about what they are really going to love. What are the questions in their head? What are the problems in their head? So it depends on what sort of context you are working in. In my case, I'm not really solving problems of huge interest. I'm rather solving for curiosity. I'm rather solving for people who want certain new perspectives. So think along that. What perspectives are people looking for? What are the conversations they could be having? If they read a book, what thoughts could be popping up in their head, which they might need better articulated? That's the basic idea that I proceed with. But as a marketing person, then again comes the beautiful angle of SEO, which I personally don't apply in my personal stuff because I do it enough at work. I don't want to do it again. But that's another area where you can shine if you optimize for Google Discover or even Google Search, depending on what you are writing about. You can get better results that way as well.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting, and it also makes sure that you are also optimizing for machines along with humans.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh, Another question that I am very curious about right now is, have you dissected or analyzed any successful marketing campaign so as to understand like what makes it actually successful?
Okay, so the most recent one, and actually one that I studied earlier too, is Starbucks. So the thing with Starbucks is that, well, you will obviously see them everywhere, not so much in India, but in the Western countries, the stores are literally everywhere. Like you will see some streets having multiple stores, and the basic question is why? Why do you have two stores on the same street? Because then aren't you sort of losing yourself to your competitors, or you are becoming a competitor of yourself? But one interesting aspect that I found is that they are trying to optimize for experience. And they are doing it in multiple ways. First is obviously the name on the cup, which has become so prevalent that almost everyone does it. But it was just a simple touch to humanize things and to make things more personal that led to such a huge movement that it became a staple for pretty much every coffee house out there. So that is one marketing campaign that I personally love. Now, coming to something very homegrown, which we saw today, if you saw today's newspaper, or if you even scroll LinkedIn today, you would have
Yeah,
found Zomato there.
Zomato. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, Zomato, as DP says. And you would have found that really cringe but cute poster about Zomato's 16th birthday, right? So another thing which I liked in this and which someone actually raised on LinkedIn as well, that as a good marketing person, you need to be risky. You can't always work with a set template because if you're working with a template, you're no longer eating the human mind. Human minds don't work in templates. Human minds are spontaneous. So match them up. And that is what Zomato does consistently, even in their notifications and all of that. They have also sort of created a moment in itself where everyone is trying to hit those lines right and copywriters are losing their heads over what is the right thing to say. So yeah, that's true. Things that I think I can highlight, which I really love. Another thing good about Zomato was that they broke their own template. if you see their older ads, print ads, it would not be so unhinged. There was a new limit that they discovered wherein they put their Deepinder Goyal's photo right up there, so big and all of that, which is a welcome move. Like, let marketing teams have the creative freedom. It would be amazing to just see what can be created. Yeah, that that would be it.
Yes. So doing the unconventional stuff and being risky, taking calculated risk and staying ahead of the curve.
Knowing
That
knowing what people are going to like. That's it.
okay. So knowing what people are always the hardest stuff to crack because a lot of things can be predicted, but people are so dynamic and they are so full of range that you can't actually black box them or their behavior. So how did you get good or like do you try reading about psychology to get better at it?
So, frankly speaking, I'm not very good at it. I'm still in a learning phase, and I guess as a marketer, you are always in that learning phase. You always discover new things about the people you are talking to. So, one very basic thing that every marketing person does is create a persona of their ICP, right? This is basically like, who's my buyer? Are they male, female? How old are they? But that's a very basic exercise, and we are just reducing people to certain attributes. And the challenge always remains in understanding what that person is actually thinking. And as you said, people are unpredictable, people are full of rage, people can get triggered by anything. So yeah, it's something which you learn by doing a lot. Reading definitely helps. So I did read a few things related to that, which did help me, which personally helped me in understanding the things which are already there in front of me. It was more about putting some system to the things that you're seeing in front of you because, well, as a marketer, everything that you observe can be a case study, but which part of it makes sense and how does it make sense? How do they fall into a system? That's where a book can help you, and that's where even a mentor can help you and like give some method to that madness. So, yeah, reading is one thing. Second is obviously always stay in touch with the people. If you are writing for a certain group or if you are like building for a certain group, get in touch with them, talk to them, and that is the best way, not the foolproof way. Nonetheless, there would be biases, there would be hidden facts, there would be mistakes, but that is the closest you can get to the people by just asking them very frankly, what's up, what do you want? That's it in my dictionary as well.
Yeah, that is a great perspective. And talking to customers actually makes sure that there are no product gaps and you are building what it is that they truly need.
Exactly, and again, that has its own pitfall because a consumer will tell you the problem, they won't tell you the solution, and they won't know the best way to solve that problem because if you follow their path, they will send you somewhere wrong. There is a likelihood of that too. So it's about getting the idea from them, but then apply your own brain and see where the balance is.
Yes. So you should be solution oriented, not problem focused.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Yeah. That brings me to the next interesting question, which is what after build space? What cool stuff are you building or working on after build space?
Okay, interesting. What after build phase? So my first and sort of the primary goal regarding my build stage project is that I need to put out 10 pieces before this year ends. And this is something which is very anti me as of now because I thought, okay, let's not put numbers to this. But then again, I'm feeling like if I don't have any numbers to reach, I'm just not reaching anywhere. That sort of put some certain intermittent goals over the year for me. So before December hits, I will push out 10 pieces. The major problem that I have most often is that I have the idea, but I won't write it out. I'll think that, okay, I'll write it out later. I'll write it out when I'm relaxed, or I'll write it out better. Even if I do write it out, I'll be like, no, I can't send this to anyone. This can't happen. And my major hurdle is to get over that. With build phase, the thing is push two pieces out beyond build phase, the thing is push more pieces out. Another aspect which I think I have not even invested in, leave alone under investing, I have not even invested in is promoting what I am doing. I do talk about it randomly here and there, but if you go to my social media, I don't think you will be able to get the gist that I have a blog. So I need to talk more about it, get more into that conversation because that conversation is not limited to the blog. That conversation is always happening around me, especially on social media. So another goal is to actively participate in that. I have done a few things like I joined a book club and I really enjoy their discussions, and that's where the idea for the blog on Manish Gaikward's book came from. So that's one aspect. It's basically to keep growing in that direction. Meanwhile, if I reach certain goals in terms of discoverability, in terms of getting more followers, that's a good to have, not a must have for me personally at this point. That's the basic idea.
Yes. And I will keep you accountable, and we will also solve for the visibility and broadcasting your work part. We are already solving for it by you
Right.
being agreeing to be on my podcast, and definitely I would try my best to ensure that your outreach is maximized.
Thanks a lot. Actually, that's why I replied to you because I thought, okay, start. No more excuses, no more waiting around and thinking like I'll do it next month or whatever. Just do it. You'll have to sit after work for an hour. Okay, do it. It's worth it. And I'm really
Yes.
enjoying it. So yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah. So I remember Farza's quote that you are ready when you think of it, not a month down the line, not a year. You are actually ready when you get the idea and when you have that, yes, I can do this, I should do this. You are ready at that moment itself.
Exactly. It's just that there is certain sort of mental hesitation that just keeps us okay, okay, there will be a perfect time. It doesn't happen, just do it.
Yeah. So you are a continuous, lifelong learner and so curious. So I am very interested to learn about any advice that you can give for aspiring creators or aspiring content creators like you, people who want to take up blogging as a hobby and do something in the content space.
So the first thing I would say is don't aim for perfection. There is nothing called a perfect piece of writing. There is nothing called a perfect piece of video. There's nothing called perfection in language. I think that your English teacher must have told you at some point because they always gave me like they kept 1 mark away. Like no, there's always scope for improvement. So you're never hitting perfect in a content thing. It's all about making progress. And actually, this is one of the values that my company where I work actually has. So progression is one of the values and the basic idea is that we are never perfect, but we are always progressing. So that's one thing which actually professional life gave me, and it became very important in my personal life as well. And it is something which I would suggest to everyone who's getting into creator space. You are never going to hit that perfect uh, blog piece, perfect video. Just make whatever the best version of you is at that point. Best version of you at that point. Best, not the best version of you that will be there after 10 years of growth. No, don't wait for that too. That is also another trap. Just do it where you are and be honest with yourself. Like, okay, this is me and this is where I am. So first would be that. Second would be don't think that everyone is going to watch you and criticize you. No one cares. People are busy in their own lives. No one will watch you. And that is actually a bad thing when you start because you feel like, oh shit, yeah, I'm not getting views, I'm not getting followers. But that's the best part too. No one is watching you. You can do as many fuck ups as you want in the initial part, and it's all right. You know, your friends know who are watching you, and anyway, you can beat them up anyway and make them forget it. So no one is going to wait for you and see, okay, this person did just let me go criticize. No, that's not happening. Just chill out, relax, and don't build an army around yourself. Okay, these many people are watching me. No. You're not in 1984 Big Brother. If not watching us, it's okay. We can just do it and we can do it bad. That's it.
Yeah, that is some powerful advice. And get out of your head. And actually, perfection is overrated. Do it bad and do it again and again. And until if you repeat it long enough, you will get a mastery, or you will figure it out, figure the best way to do it, and get efficient along the way. So that is some powerful
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah, I hope it works because that is something which has personally helped me a lot. Because I came from an education in human resource management and then I was working in marketing. And at multiple points, I felt like, is this the right way? Did I mess up? Did I choose the wrong thing? And yet it was okay. It turned out well. I learned most of the things on the job. I did not have training regarding that before joining. And it was like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing it better than yesterday. That's enough. That's cool.
Yeah. So while we say perfection is overrated, how do you then define or measure success?
Okay, interesting. And very gotcha moment question. You still define success in terms of doing better. You are not doing the best, but the better is always probable. The better is always there, and the better is what keeps you chasing the best actually, because you think that okay, I'll do better, I'll be the best, but the better is the goal itself. The third stage is not what you are looking for. You are looking for the second stage. You are looking for better than yesterday, better than the previous episode, or something around that, depending on what you are doing. And that is it. So I won't say that I write the best, but I do write better than I wrote 2 years back. That's a goal I hit. That's okay. And again, I can't say that I read all the books in the world, but I can say I read more books than I had read last year. So that's enough. That's happy enough. So yeah, don't chase success that way, like you are going to just reduce everyone to the dust, but you can still be better than the earlier version of yourself, and that is the metric of success.
Yeah. So best is sometimes unrealistic, but if we try to be better, because best is always changing and the goalpost is always moving far and far. So if we are
Exactly.
comparing us to ourselves, that is the best approach.
And even in comparing ourselves to ourselves, we can still be like, okay, 10 years later, I will be so smart, I will be able to do this. Don't do that either. Don't compare yourself to the version which will happen hypothetically. Don't even go in the chase of the best version of yourself. Even that is something which will keep you just chasing a mirage.
Okay. Yeah. That is some interesting
That
thought.
is a lot of life advice from a 22-year-old. Just accept it.
Yeah, so that is your perspective, and like I like to get a lot of different perspectives so I can connect the dots and get what is applicable to me, or like every viewer over here will try to align the discussion with their personal experiences and their thoughts and their understanding of their life. So while having
Right.
a broad definition or broad access to perspectives is definitely a good thing, but always actionable insights will be case to case basis and how it is that they really want, because everyone has a different journey and everyone is optimizing for different goals. So that is understood.
Yep. So,
Mhm. So with that being said, we are very close to the end of the session, and I would like to ask you about your final closing statements or closing thoughts that you would like to leave with the audience or the viewers of this podcast.
okay. Interesting. So my closing thoughts would simply be step out. That's it. This podcast actually happened only because in that moment I thought, just ask. The worst thing is that someone is gonna say, okay, you're not gonna fit here. It's all right. You might fit in somewhere someday later. That's okay. The best thing is that you get there and it actually happens. So just step out, just ask and just do it because as I said earlier, no one's bothering to watch you, and there's no perfect version of yourself that will come in and get a yes to every question you are going to ask. That will never happen. You can be the nicest person out there, and still there would be no's. So it's not all about you. It's a huge world. There's a lot of things that impact who you are and what you do. So instead of being worried about things, just get out and do things. And that's not something, some piece of advice that I'm just giving to others. That's something I keep on repeating actually to remind myself because that is where I get stuck too. That is where I failed too. I got stuck on this blog, although I had started it 2 years back. could have continued. But no, I thought, no, I'll wait for a better time. I'll wait for a perfect time. I'll write the better one. That is not gonna happen. Just do it. That's the advice I give to myself, and that's what I'll share with others.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I remember that I just put a random tweet and then you texted, DM'd me about regarding the tweet. And that is how the conversation flowed on. And now fast forward to this, you're on the podcast. So just put
Right.
yourself out there and don't care of what other people would think of you. Just tell your own story, be authentic and be yourself. That is what really matters at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah. You
Thank you,
summed it up
Diksha, so much.
perfectly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks a lot
Diksha, so
for
much.
hosting. Thank you. Thank you too.
Yeah.
I had a great
Having
time during this entire
having you
conversation.
yeah, having you on the podcast is a really great experience, and I'm sure it would be insightful to all our viewers and audience. Thank you so much. Thanks. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. You too.